U.S. officials. It's the same here in the South. There seems to be this overwhelming appreciation or acceptance of this referendum, of the results, and both sides, both North and South, are hoping to tap into it and work together so both sides, both the North and the South, can actually move forward economically in the future. Ida?
After the celebrations are over, what concrete measures will most people in Juba want to see this new government take?
The most pressing things is just access to basic services. Juba is the capital of southern Sudan, and some places have been developed, but you go a few kilometers just outside the city center where you find people still living in appalling conditions, no access to running water. Schools that were built before the war were destroyed during the war. Some children are having to go to school under trees. The schools that still exist that have been tried to be rebuilt, teachers are scarce. Officials are trying to bring in teachers from neighboring countries, for example. You have issues of electricity. Aid agencies are trying to get electricity out to people in the most remotest areas, but accessing them is hard. The road system here is poor. They're trying to fix them up, but it's going to take time, it's going to take money. The urgent thing people need are the basics: jobs, water, food, schools for their children, good hospitals. That's what the pressing priority is. And of course, peace. They've lived through years of war, years of conflict. It's been relatively peaceful since the Comprehensive Peace Agreement was signed in 2005, but there are still clashes here and there between rebel groups, between the soldiers themselves. They need all that maintained so that they can actually move forward in a new country. Gida?
Harun Mutasa, thanks very much for now. Let's speak to Paul Malong Akaro. He's the Deputy Head of Mission for the Government of Southern Sudan Liaison Office in the United Kingdom. He joins us now live from London. So, a very momentous day for South Sudan. Were you at all surprised by the numbers who voted in favor of this secession?
Thank you for having me. No, one is not surprised at all with the turnout and the outcome of referendum. That was actually expected.
Did you expect so many people would vote to break away from the North? What kind of message does it send to your neighbor now?
Well, the message, the Southern Sudanese has been struggling for a very long time. And, you know, when the CPA was signed, there was a lot of hope that, of course, A, is either you will make unity attractive, but unfortunately, for 6 years, unity was not being made attractive. And as a result, of course, they were looking forward to the leadership of His Excellency Salva Kiir Mayardit, which he basically stood on the, he stood his ground to ensure that the Southern Sudanese are given the opportunity to exercise these momentous decisions. And as a result, of course, you know, the Southern Sudanese decided, they have decided in the last couple of weeks for them to succeed from the North.
Well, given the past grievances of the people in the South, the criticism often directed at Khartoum for neglecting the region, for not doing enough to distribute the wealth and develop the area, how much trust do you think there will be between the two sides?
I think people now are, following the, after the announcement of this result, of course, as we are still waiting, I'm sure the Southern Sudanese are sensible enough and who will come also to, to rethink, to say that, okay, it is very important for us to have a good neighborhood with the North, because the North need the South and the South need the North, because we are good, we are going to work very hard to ensure that we remain as good neighbors, because remember one thing,
Paul
the
Malong,
border between the South...
I have to interrupt you just briefly as we return to Khartoum and listen in on these speeches in anticipation for this official outcome to be announced.
تعلمون أن العلاقة بين جنوب السودان وشماله مرت بمراحل مختلفة تخللها نزاع مسلح، ومما أدى إلى إراقة الدماء وتأخير التنمية وتأخير مسيرة الديمقراطية في البلاد. وكان لابد من إيجاد حل حاسم لذلك الصراع المسلح. شرع الحزب المؤتمر الوطني الحاكم والحركة الشعبية منذ سنوات في مفاوضات مرت بمراحل زمنية واتخذت مقرا لها بعض العواصم الأوروبية، وساعد في تلك المفاوضات عدد من
If you're just joining us now on Al Jazeera, we're looking at live pictures from Khartoum as we await the official announcement of the outcome of the referendum on the secession of South Sudan from North Sudan. We were just listening there to the chairman of the Sudan Referendum Commission. We understand he will be speaking in English after he's spoken in Arabic. We will otherwise try to get some interpretation to follow what he has been saying this far, but we do know from early reports that up to 98.83% of people who voted in this referendum voted to split from the north. Let's go back to our guest in London, Paul Malong-Akaro. I interrupted you just a couple of seconds ago in order to go to these pictures from Khartoum. We're still awaiting for that announcement to be made. Give us a little sense of what the new state will look like. What name might it have? What will be the main challenges facing the leadership?
I think the main challenges which will be facing, of course, the government of Southern Sudan is in terms of the expectation of the Southern Sudanese. And I'm sure the Southern Sudan government is capable of looking into that and making sure that all the concern, all the expectation is addressed. And people, of course, are reassured in terms of what they expect, whether it is development. I think the main serious things, of course, is that people would want to see is the public services. And I'm sure the government of Southern Sudan will be able to deliver on the key public services like schools, health, agriculture, which is one of the priority for the government of Southern Sudan, by making sure that the resources which is going to be raised from the oil is very much invested in agriculture, because Southern Sudan has got a vast area which is a very fertile land, which can actually become the bread, the basket bread of Africa, if we really invested on it.
Well, the oil is mostly in the south of the country, but the infrastructure is in the north. Will both sides be forced to cooperate with each other economically in order to develop the region of South Sudan?
I think, as I said earlier on, that the south need the north and the north need the south is because of them, because of things like the oil pipeline, which is going through the north. Because, it is in the interest of the Northern Sudan to ensure that they have got a very good relation with the Southern Sudan, so that the oil pipeline, which is going through the north, will continue, and at least the north will be able to guarantee the security of the oil pipeline which goes through the north.
President Omar al-Bashir, worth mentioning, said he welcomed and accepted the results of this referendum. What kind of role do you see for him moving forward? What kind of relationship will there be between the two leaders of South and North Sudan?
I think that was a very welcome statement from the President Bashir. I listened to it when he was making that statement when I was in the studio here. That's actually what we've been expecting from him, to make it very clear that the outcome of the referendum, which they've been saying it, of course, that they will accept the outcome of the referendum if that is the wishes of Southern Sudanese. And he has made that statement very clear, and that is a very welcome statement, and we are very happy about that.
Paul Malong-Akaro, the Deputy Head of Mission for the Government of Southern Sudan Liaison Office in the UK, thanks very much for joining us for now. We will, of course, return to Sudan as soon as we get an official announcement of the result of the referendum. Meanwhile, let's move on to another of our top stories. Thousands of protesters are still on the streets of Cairo and other major Egyptian cities, calling for the end of Hosni Mubarak's 30-year rule.
It was a tribute.
These are pictures that were taken earlier. They show protesters in Liberation Square, Tahrir Square in Cairo. Thousands have maintained their position for a 14th day. Andrew Simmons is there. Andrew, I'm not sure if you can see Tahrir Square from where you stand. Well, what's the situation like tonight?
Well, the situation is very calm indeed, and today there was a symbolic funeral of a journalist in the square, and that provoked